Hi, I'm Mike Carruthers. Since launching Perfect Your Podcast, I've gotten some great emails from people who have been very kind and appreciative of the videos and the podcast and all the training materials on the website, and it's been very gratifying to get so much positive feedback. The one challenge I hear most often from people is the challenge of getting started. It's podcast overwhelm. What do I do first? What equipment should I buy? What do I talk about? How do I find guests? What if I don't sound good? What about a website? All these questions. I understand how overwhelming it can be, and yet it's really like anything else. Imagine if you'd never seen someone drive a car before. Well, the first time you saw someone drive, you'd say, well, that looks impossible. All those cars so close together, going so fast, brakes, steering, turn signals, mirrors, can't be done. But obviously it can be done. Like anything important, you need to break it down into smaller steps or it will overwhelm you to the point of paralysis, and then you do nothing. This is one of the things I help clients do as their coach, help them take it step by step to avoid that feeling of podcast overwhelm. But if you find yourself hesitating and not moving forward, I want to suggest an idea that I think will really help. Get a co-host. Now, even if that idea doesn't sound appealing right off, hear me out, because there are co-hosts and then there are co-hosts. One of the reasons people have a hard time getting started is the idea of talking into a microphone. It's hard to do and sound natural and conversational. Talking to another person is so much easier, especially when you're first starting out. Now, a co-host doesn't necessarily mean an equal partner, and a co-host doesn't mean forever either. I know of several podcasters who use a co-host primarily as an interviewer, someone to ask them questions so they have a two-person conversation, someone to bounce off of rather than talking directly to the listener. One example of this is Michael Hyatt. It's his podcast and a very successful one, both video and audio, and he has someone directing questions to him so it engages him in a conversation with another person because that works better for him. It's almost like he's a guest on his own podcast, but it's still his podcast. Talking into a microphone directly to the audience is a skill that takes time, and you can develop that skill while you have a co-host. And you may even find that two hosts are actually better than one for a lot of reasons. Recently, for the Perfect Your podcast, I interviewed Aaron Habel, co-host of the Generation Why podcast, a very successful one, and he talked about why he and his partner Justin decided to do a two-person co-hosted podcast.
I really think it helps having a co-host, someone to have some interplay with, because if you're just doing it on your own, it's so much more difficult for the average person. Someone who's been in radio a long time, they can talk all day. Someone who's new at it, I really think you should have, especially a friend, someone you're used to having conversation with.
As you heard, Aaron thinks using a co-host who is someone you know and you're comfortable with is a great way to go because you already have some chemistry with that person. But another great reason to use a co-host is it gives you someone to help you get through the steps and past that overwhelm of launching a podcast, almost like an accountability buddy. As I mentioned, having a co-host doesn't have to be forever, and you can define the co-host role very specifically so you don't have to worry about the podcast getting away from you. Think about it. See if the idea of talking directly into the microphone and to the audience is one of the things that keeps you held back. If it is, look for a co-host, preferably someone you already know. It can really help you get out of that paralysis. I'm Mike Carruthers. Check out all the training videos on our website, and please feel free to leave a comment. Thanks for watching.